So we're able to build out this report for you, and it allows you to change your current state of health, but then also have confidence going into the future, knowing that what you're doing, every single step you take moving forward is allowing you to rewrite the script. Okay, so it's like taking a minority report, and then it's like, well, wait, you don't have to commit that crime against yourself. I will give you the tools and the essential things that you need, the lifestyle changes, the sleep habits, the breath work that you need. We'll get you somebody for that, or my wife can help you with that. And we just keep building you healthier and healthier and healthier. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Jacque Show. I'm excited to talk about this topic today because I talked with one of my best buds, Johnny L. Sasser, about this topic, and it's basically what I call the minority report. And I'm just going to run right into this today because I want to try to get these segments a little bit less lengthy, so that way they're easier to consume. If anybody's ever watched the Minority Report, it's a pretty eye-opening movie. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. It's an amazing movie. But the concept behind the Minority Report is that these guys are able to create technology to be able to detect crimes even before that person is able to detect that they're even going to do the crime, murder, etc. And we blend this into what I do in practice, where this is exactly what we do. The only thing is, we're not talking about is somebody going to kill somebody. We're talking about is somebody going to be killing themselves with their diet and their lifestyle. So when we build out these protocols, when we go over these tests, and we're seeing all these markers, I get these questions on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, where it's like, well, I had it today. Why do they have to be mutually exclusive? Why can't you guys basically get along? And the problem is, like, it's like trying to tell a boat mechanic that he needs to be able to work with a cardiologist. Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't have. I'm out there trying to get health for people. Not trying to. I'm helping people achieve their optimal health. Medical doctors, pediatricians, these types of guys, OBs, gynaes, endocrinologists, they're not trying to get you healthy. They're trying to get you on medication. And that might be an inflammatory statement, but it's true. Because if you go to one of those doctors, even integrative doctors, naturopaths are even doing this too, they're so quick to write a script. They're so quick to write a medication or an antibiotic that you supposedly need for whatever it is that you're treating. And I'm over here like, no, that's not going to help. It might calm down some of those symptoms, but it's going to lead to more disease in the body. And then we're going to have to pick that up and fix that later. So when I talk about the Minority Report, when I'm seeing these things, we're looking at things from a proactive standpoint. And unfortunately, a lot of people do come to me after the symptom is already there, after the disease state is already there. I'd love for people to come to me and be like, listen, I'm optimized as much as I possibly can. I know every biohacking trick. I know how to eat. I'm eating this way. I make sure I avoid gluten, dairy, corn, soy, you name it, processed sugar. I don't eat it because it's not good for me. How can I optimize my health? That would be amazing. We're going to start a program where we are going to have some of those elite type profiles that we're going to be working with, because they're already, 10 notches above where the average American is. So when we're seeing these people come to us, we're able to tell, hey, what's causing my symptom in real life, in current time, what's causing my symptom, but then we're also able to fast track it. And an example that I talk about is Helicobacter pylori, or H. pylori. This particular infection, it's a stomach infection. It affects the oral cavities here as well. And what we're seeing here is that it can basically do anything and everything. I've seen H. pylori cause cancer. I've seen it cause Hashimoto. I've seen it cause nutrient malabsorption. I've seen it cause anemia. I've seen it cause chronic fatigue. I've seen it cause adrenal insufficiency. You name it, it causes it. And so say somebody comes to me and we're reading through a test and we're like, hey, this is what this can do. And they're over here like, well, I don't have those symptoms. I'm like, perfect. Minority Report, right? Because I'm able to predict what your future will look like for you based off of your life choices, decisions, and infections. What is your current toxic load? What is your current infection load? That is going to predict your health 5, 10, 15 years from now, and so on and so forth. Are we slightly, if we were looking at blood glucose, are we at like 95, 100? Where I'd like to see it like 80. it's not clinically a problem, not according to medical testing, but according to functional testing, you're starting to have a difficult time with blood glucose. What about insulin resistance? What if your number's pushing too high on insulin? It's getting larger and larger and larger. And I'm over here like, wait a second, we need to address this risk for insulin resistance. What are your adrenals doing? What are your dietary choices like? What is your sleep like? So we're able to build out this report for you, and it allows you to change your current state of health, but then also have confidence going into the future, knowing that what you're doing, every single step you take moving forward is allowing you to rewrite the script. Okay, so it's like taking a minority report, and then it's like, well, wait, you don't have to commit that crime against yourself. I will give you the tools and the essential things that you need, the lifestyle changes, the sleep habits, the breath work that you need. We'll get you somebody for that, or my wife can help you with that. And we just keep building you healthier and healthier and healthier. So when people come and they're like, oh my gosh, and we're going to be upping our prices again. But if people are like, hey, this is really expensive. It's like, yeah, well, it's not just for the time that you're with me. It's for the time that you're without me. I'm building you to be sustainable on your own. I want to release you, and I want to get there as soon as possible. So that way you can go back to enjoying life, so that you don't have to feel like you're constantly taking supplements. And when we say like, well, can I just go to a medical doctor for this? No. Can I just go to an endocrinologist? No. Can I go to an integrative? No. Naturopath? No. Where do I go? Somebody who functions in the functional world, in the functional range world. Somebody who's not quick to write a script. If you go in and your doctor's like, hey, you have low testosterone, I'm going to give you testosterone, that's a bad doctor. If somebody just judges based off of how you look and say, hey, you need this, that's a bad doctor, right? I had a patient who went to a health food store, and they're like, well, you're looking small. You need testosterone. Take this testosterone support. I'm like, what? You got a history of prostate cancer. You can't just dance around this stuff. You don't want this stuff funneling down the DHT pathways. And we analyzed his diet, and he was getting, I think it was like 40 grams of protein a day. Yeah, you're going to be smaller. You don't have protein for you cannot create muscle in absence of protein. So we can't do these cookie cutter things. And again, when people are like, this is expensive, listen, if you extrapolate this and say average life expectancy is 85, and say you pay $8,000 for care, or 10 grand, 12 grand, whatever it is for care, you can extrapolate that over a lifetime. We'll just say for 12 grand in care, and you get a year with me, that's $1,000 a month. It's nothing. Okay. And then you make it even smaller when you're like, okay, now I know how to take care of myself. Or if something does go wrong, I no longer feel like I'm held victim and I need to jump to a vaccine, or I need to jump to an antibiotic, or I need to jump to an antifungal, or I need to jump on birth control. You're like, oh, you know what? Maybe I worked out too hard leading up to my period. Or, you know what, doc was telling me I need to increase my fiber. Maybe I need to do that. I look back and I wasn't eating that much fiber, or I'm not eating that much protein, or I'm not drinking that much water. There's all of these pieces that go into this. And when we talk about stool tests, or we talk about the hormonal realm of things, when we blanket statement people and we're like, hey, you're deficient in said category, what does that mean for your hormones? Again, testosterone. Use it for an example. If you have low testosterone, you can have a poor production from your Leydig cells, so from your testes, with having low testosterone, but what does your adrenal axis look like? What does your HPA axis look like? Right? Or are you eating a crappy diet, and are you over-converting your hormones down into estrogen, estradiol in particular? So there's a lot of things that compound into this, and if you keep building your health the way that you've been allowing it to be diseased, then you're going to keep accumulating and snowballing, because then all of your organ systems are going to be sacrificed. Every single one of them. Because no organ, cell, or tissue functions by itself. It's impossible. We are one. We are energy, and we are all interconnected. So if I eat a Twinkie, every single aspect of my body becomes poisoned. My brain, my eyesight's worse. My senses are worse. I'm dulled out. My nervous system goes chaotic. My digestive tract goes chaotic. I start feeding bad bacteria. That bad bacteria overgrowth will then make it difficult for my thyroid to function. It'll cause an adrenal stress crisis. And what happens? Then I have a difficult time with my blood sugar regulation. And those are just a few things. Every single thing falls apart. And so we like to categorize things in terms of progression. And the sequence of progression is we do things in life that cause inflammation, whether that's just the stress response. Thinking about stress increases your cytokine production of interleukin 6, which increases inflammation, which makes us hold fat, right? So inflammation will automatically start to damage our body because we're inflamed, right? Light a piece of paper on fire and pretend that the piece of paper is okay, and it's not going to work, right? So we have to put out the fire, but not only put out the fire, but figure out the cause of why the fire happened to begin with. Who has the lighter? What part of the body has the lighter? It's typically your own hand. Very similar analogy. You're doing it to yourself from bad habits that were passed down to you, whether it's from your mom, your dad, your grandparents, your preacher, teacher, whatever, your health teacher back in the day, or some of these knucklehead doctors who don't know what the heck they're talking about. That is how these things accumulate. And we get into this crisis when we hit 50, 60, 70 years old, and we're like, I'm going to die at some point anyways. I don't really care. And it's not that. It's that you've lived your life, 60 some years of neglect. And sometimes people can be ashamed by that. Like, oh my God, I've been doing something horrible for me. And then the other piece of it is sometimes we don't want to change. We don't want it. Unless we hit that health crisis, we don't want it. And medicine has done a phenomenal job of making it really easy to not care about your health, right? Don't worry. If you get cancer, we'll poison you. We'll poison you back to health. Don't worry. If you have a heart attack, we'll give you medications that will guarantee you to have another heart attack. Or we'll give you statins that decrease your libido, crush your hormones, and lead you down more sickness and disease. Or if a girl is on birth control for her whole life, and then all of a sudden she gets into menopause, and menopause is horrible for her, and they're like, well, we'll just stay on birth control or do this or take this bioidentical, and then all of a sudden they have breast cancer or uterine cancer. Like, where'd that come from? Well, let's just do a full hysterectomy. Let's just do a whole mastectomy. Take the breast tissue off, and we'll give you implants instead. And you're 60, 70 years old, and you're like, well, I've been thinking about implants because, these things aren't hanging the way that they used to. So implants sound good. They don't tell you the risks associated with that. This society, the medical community has made it so easy for us to neglect our health. This is the Amazon Prime generation. We want results in 2 minutes, 2 days, guaranteed, or else we're pissed, right? We don't want to take personal responsibility for our health. We just want it to be there for us. And so when somebody like me calls you out on your bad patterns, your behaviors, your beliefs, your diet, your lifestyle, your exercise, it sounds like nails on a chalkboard. It does. Because you have to understand that where you are, no matter how old you are, is an accumulation of all the decisions that you've made in your life. Every ounce of alcohol that you drank in college, every pizza that you downed at 1 o'clock in the morning, every all-nighter that you did during college. And I'm talking about myself. Like, if anybody else did that, you can relate. In Penn State, when I graduated Penn State for my undergraduate in kinesiology movement science, we were the number one party school. We created our own holiday, State Patty's Day, which I don't think they're allowed to do that anymore, but just a random holiday to get drunk. I participated, right? So I'm not saying that I've been perfect my entire life, but I could admit that I wasn't good to myself, and my health showed it. But I'm obsessed with human optimization. I'm obsessed with getting results where other systems have failed, or they have no idea what in the world is causing your symptoms. And it's becoming more and more apparent and blaringly obvious that these doctors that are out there in the field, and this is a broad swooping generalization. So I hope some of you do take offense to this, and I hope others are like, but wait, I'm good. Awesome. If you're a good person, please reach out to me. If you want to do something different, I'll teach you how to do something different. But our parents grew up in a generation where it was really difficult to get into medical school. And so you really had to have that passion to help other people. Then our grandparents' generation, we had the doctors that would show up at the house and they'd say, hey, eat this broth and do this, or take this little thing here and you should be fine. Just rest. A lot of it was just rest. Get your fluids up. You're good, right? And then our parents' generation was, okay, well, we're no longer going to come to your house, but we're going to go ahead and say, come into the office, we'll charge you your copay for that, and then we'll see what tests we can run in order to charge your insurance, which is just a scheme, a mob mentality scheme. See, we can charge your insurance so that way I can get you on a medication. And if you can't afford it, we'll get you on an off-label medication, which is going to be even more detrimental to your health, and it's going to be used for something that it should not be used for. And so then it's like, well, wait a second. They got into it because they cared about people, but they didn't know any better. They've been indoctrinated in it. And now it's like this, our parents' generation wants all of us, okay, I'm 35, I'll be 36 this year. So just to give relevance of that, they all wanted us to become doctors, right? Doctors, lawyers. That's what all of our parents wanted us to be. And so it took the passion out of it for these doctors who were coming up. It took it right away. They didn't want to do it. They just have a codependency issue that they are unaware of, or maybe they are now. They wanted to please their parents, and all of a sudden, what happens? They're in it, and they're like, this sucks. I don't want to do this. I don't even want to think. You know what I can do? Let me just pound away on this keyboard, or let me have this nurse go do my job for me. I'll just write the script for whatever medication they tell me to, and then boom, go to the pharmacy. That's what they do. They're taking the joy out of it. Now, there's probably some who are like, I want to get the hell out of this. This is not what I signed up for. But you know what they do? They contaminate the rest of this, right? So there's medical doctors that then become naturopathic doctors who are still clung tight because they've been brainwashed in medications, and medications being the only thing to move the dial. So now they're naturopaths, natural in the name, right? Naturopaths. And then they're still throwing in their medications. Or they do functional medicine, but they focus highly on the medicine aspect of it. You know, a telltale sign if your doctor's good or not. Doesn't tell you to get vaccinated, doesn't force you to get vaccinated, gives you education on why not to get vaccinated, doesn't push antibiotics, and they have to talk to you about diet and lifestyle. How many of you have been to a doctor that's done that? How many of you have been to a doctor where they ask if you were breastfed in an intake form? What about if there's mold in your house? A lot of these big things that are being missed because they're not being taught this in school, and this new generation of doctors don't give a shit. The older generation are waiting to retire. They want to get out, especially post-COVID. They're in their risky age. They're like, I don't want to be around this crap anymore. I don't like where medicine is going. I don't like where insurance is going. Oh, that's the other thing. If they don't accept your insurance, that's a good sign. If they don't take insurance at all, that's a great sign, because they have to be good. They have to be great at what they do to charge for the services that they render. And so when you see a high ticket item or a high value on a doctor's time, it's because they're good at what they do, or great at what they do. And they deserve to be paid for their time, not just while they're with you. They deserve to get paid for the time when you're not with them, and also for all the education they're constantly consuming. Doctors like myself, we are obsessed with learning more and more. And you can see this in the podcast, and just in the transition of the podcast, 50 some episodes, right? Just thinking from the beginning of this year, even since I moved out to Arizona, talking more about mindset, talking more about body work, somatic breath work, doing plant medicine, working on some enzymes, working on all these other unique protocols that I had some jackwagon trying to say that he knew what the hell he was talking about when he was trying to teach me before. He didn't know a damn thing. And the cool thing is, looking back at it now, I'm like, thank God, I know exactly how not to practice. And I have this thirst to help people. It's ingrained in me. It's ingrained in my DNA. You know, this profession picked me, and I happily accepted the invitation. And so when you're thinking, hey, you know, I've got this hormonal problem, you know, what do I do? Right? Or if you reach out to me on TikTok or on Instagram, you're like, hey, what can I take for this? Or what can I take for that? That's telling me that you have years of indoctrination where you expect me to give you an answer, to give you a medication or a holistic medication for a problem that you're still choosing not to address. So again, the Minority Report. Where's your health? Where's your health right now? Are you planning for the future? What does your health look like in 5 years? What does your business look like in 5 years, right? If you're not planning that, if you're not planning to scale your business or hire more people, et cetera, you're going to be stagnant, or you're going to start going backward, and you'll start having anger and resentment towards your business. You won't want to show up. That'll play into your relationships. That'll play into your stress. And you have erectile dysfunction or deal with infertility. And it's just boom, 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 boom. How many hits do you need to take before you accept that there's a problem? And the problem starts here. You have to start understanding that in order to get to the bottom of the problem, you have to, it's like AA, right? You have to first admit there's a problem, and you have to admit that it's you. You're the problem here. And are you the problem because you chose to be, or are you the problem because you've been brainwashed to be? Right? So I'm not saying, hey, you're a bad person. I'm saying, hey, who told you? Who told you that you needed a medication for this? Who told you that, ADHD was abnormal for a young boy to have? Who told you that it's okay to be tired? Who told you that it's your age, your genetics, the culture, whatever you're like? How many dismissal excuses do you need to be told before you wake up? It's easy for medical doctors to say, listen, Jacque, here's the thing. This runs in your family. Heart disease runs in your family. Cancer runs in your family. So I'm sorry to tell this, but you're gonna get one of those. And to me, I'm like, wait a second. I'm bird's eye on this. I'm bird's eye view. I'm flying around like an eagle in the sky. I'm like, hey, that's all right. Because at some point, right, when you say, hey, my dad had heart disease, my grandfather had heart disease, my great-grandfather had heart disease. What about my great-great-grandfather? What about my great-great-great-grandfather, and so on and so forth? So what, we have 2 generations where we have heart disease, or 3 where we have heart disease? What about the many, many, many generations in my family before that? And we're not born with heart disease. Now, there's some people, there's congenital things you could be born with, and that's a whole different topic for a different day. I'm not trying to tick off too many people in this one. I'm trying to empower on this. Empower yourself to think, say, listen, why is it important for me to invest in my health? And I think now, today, more than really ever, it could not be a better time for you to invest into your health. Whether you work with me or not, find a way to fix your health. Find a way to regain control. Get back in the driver's seat. So that way, at some point, you can go on cruise control in a positive way, knowing that you've already put all of your pillars in place. You know how to handle the stress. Your neuroendocrine system looks fantastic. Your GI is great. Your yearly physical was an adrenal test and a stool test, or an organic acids. And you're like, hey, I'm just staying on top of it. And I meet with my doc once a year. It's great. Good. Or if you meet with me when you're going through something, great. That's awesome. But we have to have that mindset. If we want to move the needle here in society, if we want to move the needle here for ourselves, for our children, we need to teach them the truth. And we need to wake the hell up. We've been brainwashed. We've been lied to. And we continue to be lied to. You say, trust the science. Trust the science. Which by itself is a false statement. Science is always changing. Always changing. Because you have a different organization that's going to run a test. If they can't duplicate the same results as the previous one, you just dispelled the myth of whatever it is. Or you just dispelled the truth of whatever that study was. Or they're like, you know what? We had the wrong parameters. We had the wrong measurements. Or, more often than not, this was a corrupt test. Or this was a corrupt research article. Third party is a shell company that is owned by, I don't know, a tobacco company. And you're like, oh, smoking cigarettes is great for you. No third party interest. I'm like, but wait, if you trace that company over, like it's directly related to a tobacco company. So of course they want to push that message out there. So this is where that critical thinking comes into play and logic comes into play. So be that guy. I think it's Tom Cruise. And I'm not even a fan of Tom Cruise at all. At all. I'm not. I think he's kind of crazy. He makes good movies, I guess, but that's basically it. Okay? So be that guy. Be the Minority Report, and figure out, hey, if I feel great right now, fantastic, but how can I feel even better? And then even better than that, how can I make sure that my health never leaves me? We'll always go through ups and downs. The healing path is not always linear. But what I can tell you is if you're trending upward, you're doing a great job. So keep your eye on the prize there. Use this as motivation and seek the help of somebody like myself or one of the docs that I'll be training here with my program I'm launching. Seek their help because you need it. And if you just sit around and you Google, that's great to get a baseline foundation. But how many people come to me and they're like, Doc, I can't Google anymore. I can't do it. Or I can't DuckDuckGo. Like I get so stressed out. Everything leads to cancer. Everything leads to heart disease. It's like anything that you want to find on the internet, you can find. You can find 10 articles that say smoking cigarettes will make you die. And then you'll find 10 articles that say, nope, smoking increases your quality of life and whatever. I just made that up. But that's what I'm getting at here. That's what I'm talking about. So whenever it comes to your health, please get back in the driver's seat. If you need help and assistance with that, you know where to look, you know where to turn. And always be proactive. Don't wait to be reactive. Whether it's you're working to fix your gut or you never want to have gut issues. Like don't say, hey, I don't know what I did differently, but I used to have irritable bowel. Now I don't. I think I'm good. Right? It's the whole analogy of being too good to be great. Don't fall victim to that, because you could have an H. pylori infection that is waiting for you to have your next stress response, and then you develop an ulcer or you develop gastric cancer. There's this huge accumulatory effect. If you just pretend that the smoke alarm is off, right? You could have just opened a window and the smoke is going outside. You're like, well, I don't know what I did differently. Just the opposite side, right? You do the same thing for 50 years and all of a sudden you get diagnosed with cancer. You should be pissed off at all your doctors that you worked with previously, because their job technically is to keep you healthy. So you've been going to a PCP, you've been going to an endocrinologist, you've been getting your regular pap smears, and then all of a sudden you come back with a mammogram and you're like, oh yeah, you're stage 4 breast cancer. Where the hell were you guys for stage 1, 2, and 3? What the hell was I paying you for? But we're more ingrained to do that because insurance pays for it. Insurance pays for that testing. Insurance doesn't pay for what I do. Why? Because I keep people healthy. We get people off the system. We get people off that hamster wheel. It's all about that empowerment. So hopefully this message resonates to you, the listeners, or the viewers, if you're watching me. And I want to applaud everybody who has started to wake up, who have started to follow me or listen to this or find help from another functional style doctor, whether it's myself with my own category of naturopathic health expert, chiropractor, functional medicine practitioner. Those are usually like your safest ones. But realistically, you have to use logic. You have to use reason. And if you don't, you're going to fall victim to another person who's just going to prey on you and push you back into the medical system. Right? Because I hear this too, where it's like, listen, my doctor's a really good guy. He's a really good Christian. That doesn't mean shit. It doesn't. It doesn't mean anything. Because I'm sure some of the priests in the Catholic Church would be like, oh, he's a really good person. All of a sudden he's caught touching little boys. Was he a good person? No, he was terrible. You just didn't know about it. So when we're talking about the good, I'm not saying all these doctors say no, they're a good Christian or touching little boys, but what I'm saying is you don't know. If you're blinded by what they say about themselves or they're overly Christian, they're usually trying to prove something, right? Just walk the walk. Just walk the walk and be authentic. Be authentic. Be real and truly have a passion to help other people. And that was for the docs. For the patients, you have to be in the driver's seat again. You have to be your own health advocate. You have to make the choice and make the decision to say, hey, today I'm changing my life. And I don't care what any of my friends or family says, I'm sticking on it. I'm doing it. Because if you don't, it's going to take one person, usually your closest person, who's going to start pecking at you. And if the results don't come soon enough, they'll be like, hey, why don't you try this cleanse? Why don't you try this detox? Just do this. Just take this fat pill. Just do this diet. Oh, HCG diet's good. And then what happens? You get results for a minute, and then all of a sudden your whole body falls apart. And you're worse off than where you were before. And if you thought I was expensive before, and you damage everything that you have with your body, it's going to be more expensive to fix what's broken, right? Where like you have a leak in your roof, and you're like, well, you know what you could do is just replace your whole roof, and then while the roof is ripped off, it's just pummels down rain on top, and you're like, ooh, I could have just fixed that one shingle or that one terracotta tile, and it could have been done, could have been solved. Now I have to replace your entire roof, fix the mold problem on the inside, close it all off, and make sure you're good to go. So start taking care of yourself now. It doesn't matter what your age is. It doesn't matter if you're 90-some years old. It doesn't matter. These changes can still increase your quality of life. Because if there's one thing that we cannot ever get back in life, it's time. And that time is not just, hey, I'm on hospice care being dragged out till I die. Time is quality time. You get to choose. Which one do you want to do? Do you want to be there for your kids? Do you want to be a great mom, dad? Do you want to be a great grandparent? Do you want to be the best coworker possible? Do you want to be the most successful entrepreneur possible? What is it that you want? What is your why? Why do you want to be healthy? Set that rooted foundation in and don't let anybody else distract you from it. So I'm going to let you guys go with that. But thanks for tuning into this podcast here today. Be sure to like and review, and we'll talk again next time.